Amen. Praise the Lord. God bless America this morning. Good to see everybody. Amen. We're going to stand this morning. We're going to sing By and By. You know, it made me think we'll understand it better by and by. We don't understand what's going on in this world. Only God knows. But you know something? One day we're gonna understand all this. And we're living in a great country, and God has blessed us, and He's blessed this country. And I thank Him for that. Praise the Lord. Let us sing.
Well, good morning, Grace. I'm glad to see somebody stayed in town anyway. All right. Good to have you this morning. Thank you for being here. Welcome those of you who joined us by Facebook and those who joined us by YouTube this morning. You can log on to any of those. Go to our website if you can't find it, and you'll be able to get in there so you can watch it and see what's happening around here. Let's open with a word of prayer. I ask you to remember those of our church who are still battling illness. Brother Jerry Nix got a little infection from his surgery. I ask you to be Brother Jerry, keep him incentive in your prayers if you will. Brother Joel is he's still there and he's still hanging in, still getting better, but Joel's got a hard few days ahead of him and trying to get better. So, Brother Joel, yes?
I talked to Jane this morning. She said that Joel keeps pulling the tube out. Keep doing that, he will stay there longer.
Yeah, he's having a hard time. He don't want that tube, but anyway, pray for him, you know. It's hard for somebody used to going to be still. That's just all there is to it. So pray for him and Jane both, if you will, lift them up. Don't forget, this Tuesday we have the funeral service for the Barber family here at the church. If you would, keep that family in your prayers also. Keep them lifted up. Don't forget Miss Pat Pound. Miss Pat's still recovering, and keep Pat in your prayers if you would. And I know I'm missing somebody because I'm looking for it in my file cabinet. Lamar and Barbie Whitley. Lamar did get retested, and he's tested negative, so Barbie will have to get tested. But Lamar's still weak. If you talk to him, you can tell he's still weak, so he's still got a good deal to overcome. But he's getting better, getting stronger, so we're thankful for that. Somebody else I missed that I'm not supposed to miss. Well, we got to just pray for everybody. Brother Mike Pittman, we go down our list. Brother Jerry Crook, we don't have a bulletin. We've been told not to pass bulletins out, paperwork right now. So it's on our website. You can find it. If you want to find somebody to pray for, go to the website, GBC LaGrange website. That's easy to find. And you'll find a prayer list there. And pray for those. We got many others in our church and in our church family, extended family, that you can be praying for. Let's go, Lord, and pray for good. All right, Father, we ask you to thank our hearts today, God. I ask you to put a thankfulness in our heart for this country, this land, Lord. Cause us to be thankful people, Father, and urge us. And Lord, I realize today, Lord, you can make us do nothing. You offer it to us and we can accept it or we can reject it. But through your Holy Spirit, Father, we pray today that you would cause us to be a thankful people. Lord, we're celebrating the birthday of our nation yesterday, Lord, and it continues to grow. And Lord, we pray that as we get to that age, we pray, God, we might be found wise and have wisdom throughout our land, through our leadership. Lord, we're in need of help. Our nation needs help, our country, Lord, our people, Lord, our county, our state, our churches. We need help, Father. We need the only help that can come from you, and that's the help of the Holy Spirit, Father. But we're unable to help ourselves. Lord, we don't know. Sometimes trying to fix things, we don't know what we're fixing, Father. We're trying to do things, we don't know what we're doing. But Father, through all of this, you've been grateful and good to us. Lord, you've blessed us. Lord, you've given to us. Lord, you've supported us. You've supported our homes and our families. And Lord, even those with sicknesses, Father, you've been with them, and we thank you for that. Lord, we thank you that you'll continue to go with us, Lord, and be with us. Lord, I thank you for these who are here today. Lord, I pray for those of our church who are traveling away. I pray, God, you'd be with them. Lord, for those that are home watching today, God, I pray for them. Pray a special prayer, Lord, that you just hover your sweet spirit about them, Lord, and comfort them today. Lord, if we accomplish anything today, may it be that we lift your name above every name today, Father. Lord, that we honor you, Lord, with the glory that's only due to you, Father. And we ask you now, Lord, just to cause us to let our voices be heard, Father. We preached on the voice last Sunday, Lord. We all have a voice, but sometimes we're afraid the world might hear it. We're even afraid each other might hear it, Father. And I pray this morning, Lord, we lift our voices and give you glory as we sing. I pray this morning, God, we'd honor you with our substance, and Lord, honor you with our gift, with our tithe, and Lord, honor you with our health and our working, and Lord, just honor you in all that we do. We ask you to go with us now and bless what we do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you for being here. You don't have to be too quiet now. I ain't gonna wake nobody up. Ain't no sleepers here this morning. I tell you what I'm going to do, Sherry. I'm going to pick right now to do that, if you don't mind, before we do anything else. I want you to, I may cut a light out of too. We're going to play a little short video for you. I want you to look at this and just, you just sang a song, God Bless America. Well, I'm going to tell you, you could be one of those folks who are over in Russia and you don't have no English language, or you could be in India, or you could be in Pakistan, you could be in Turkey, you could be in Zimbabwe, you could be in a lot of places. But you ought to be thankful you were born. This is nothing against any other nation. It's just the fact that I sure am glad God birthed me in this place called the United States of America. And I'm glad God put me here. And there are many great nations in our land today. I don't live in any other land. I live here, and I'm thankful for it. Sherry's got you a great video. Sherry, go ahead and play that video for me.
Thank you, Sherry. That was touching there. And I'd like to thank the guys and women for their service to this country. And, as we walk through this life here on earth, one day that roll's going to be called up yonder. We'll all be together again, amen. Let's sing that song, if you will, if you'd like to stand. Amen. Brother Ted, come hit us a lick. Brother Tick Dollar, unknown, where's he from?
One day at a time, isn't it? Sherry's back, huh?
Thank you.
Hope you don't mess me up.
started, let me extend a gracious thank you to Brother Ronnie. Always we could find a way to move him. We're glad Ronnie doesn't live close by. Y'all don't know that he's down below Columbus, so it makes quite a journey for him to get here with us. So we appreciate him being with us and helping us out. Holiday weekend, everybody had somewhere to go, and so we just left ourselves here. Luke chapter 20 today, in the Gospel of Luke, Luke chapter 20. Our Lord is dealing with a little subject that sometimes we don't talk about enough, I guess, because we see it as one thing. The Lord sees it as many things. And I thought it odd. I said, Lord, I'd like to preach about liberty today. But I wrestled with this yesterday, and I said, well, I'm just going to go ahead and preach it today. And if it suits us, it suits us, and if it don't, it don't. But God never gives it that it returns void. I know that. So I'm bringing you a message called Desiring the Right Things. Desiring the right things. Now, I'm going to focus on one verse, and that's verse 20, but you can't really get a hold of verse 20 until you kind of see the whole picture. And let me remind you that this is the setting that we find Jesus in, and the setting is found in the very first verse. And I want you to listen to this carefully. In the meantime, when there were gathered together an innumerable multitude of people, insomuch that they trod one upon another, he began to say unto his disciples. Now that's a whole lot of folks. So you have to get a picture of that crowd. I mean, I see pictures on TV sometime about all these folks getting in trouble when somebody panics at a mass crowd. But innumerable number of people are there. And during the course of the first few verses here in chapter 20, we find that Jesus talks about the hypocrisy of that day. How they're hypocrites. And he warns the disciples to beware of the unleavened. He warns them about not trusting the Lord. And he reminds them that even the hairs of their head are numbered, and God knows all about them, and God cares for them. He's reminding them of certain things, and he says to them that whosoever confesseth me, well, I confess. And he talks about the light in the eye. And in the midst of all this, what he's saying, to get you to verse 20, something happens that I sometime overlook and you sometime overlook, because we're looking at a parable, but the parable is given for a purpose. In the midst of all this with a great multitude, I want you to listen in verse 13. And one of the company, now who's the company? That's them. Who's them? Them is the mass crowd.
What's the scripture reference? I'm in Luke 20.
Luke 12. I'm sorry. I didn't do that, did I?
Amen, you did.
Yeah, that's going to be a habit, isn't it? Well, I'm going to do like my good brothers and some churches do. I'm going to get me a scripture reader up here. And, they have them read the scripture. That way they don't mess up. Well, I knew where I was. I don't know. Y'all just didn't know where y'all was. All right? It's chapter 12 and verse 20 is the caption verse that I'm going to preach from. But now that I've said all that, if you're in chapter 12, I want you to look at verse 13 with me. Because out of all this is going on, and this great multitude of people, watch what happens in this verse. And one of the company, who's the company, the great multitude, lots of them, said unto Jesus, Master, speak to my brother that he divide the inheritance with me. Of everything in the world is going on, and all the power of God moving, and here comes comes one poor soul. He hadn't heard a word about hypocrisy. He hadn't heard a word about the gospel and being blinded. The only thing he knew was his brother wouldn't give him what he wanted, and he wanted Jesus to make him do it. And Jesus said these words unto him. And he said unto the man, Man, who made me a judge or a divider over you? Watch what Jesus says. And he said unto them, Take heed and beware of covetousness, for a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesseth. Then he speaks the parable unto them. And we find that parable from verse 16 down through verse 21. And you know the story of the young man who, well, let's just read it to you because it's real interesting. Verse 16, and then say, watch this now. The ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentiful. What was it that brought forth plentiful? The ground. Who's the ground belong to? It's the Lord's, isn't it? I mean, we say we own a piece of ground, but I didn't develop that ground. That dirt was already there when I got there. That dirt's there from the Creator. And he said, the ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentiful. And he thought within himself and saying, What shall I do? Because I have no room where to bestow my fruits. And he said, This will I do. I will pull down my barns and build greater, and there will I bestow all my fruits and my goods. And I will say unto my soul, Soul, thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Take ease, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said unto him, Thy food, this night thy soul shall be required of thee. Then, watch this now, then whose shall those things be which thou hast provided? So is he that layeth up treasures for himself and is not rich toward God. Amazing what Jesus did. Now, I call your attention because you see the word them in the beginning. See, there was a part of this where he was speaking only to his disciples. But in this part, he's speaking to the whole of the congregation. He gave this parable in response to the young man that was so caught up about wanting what his brother had. He coveted what his brother had. You know, covetousness can come from the idea that we want what somebody else has, or we can actually covet what we have and want nobody else to have it either. We covet to keep what we have, or we covet what somebody else has. And Jesus said, I'm going to give you a parable here, and I want you to listen to it well. And he said unto them, he said, This night thy soul shall be required of thee. So we have here a young man who has been blessed. The ground that he's working, the land around him is giving him bountiful fruits, and his warehouse won't hold it, and he's running over and he's asking. And Jesus says, I'm going to tell you the parable. He thought to himself, I'll tear down the barns and build bigger barns. Now, I want you to look with me just for a little bit, and you say, well, this doesn't belong on 4th of July, preacher. I believe it's very appropriate for 4th of July because I think a great deal of our problem in America, and not necessarily in the church, but I believe it's in the church as well, is that we have become so consumed with self that we have forgotten that we live among other people. And we've become so consumed with what we want and what we need that we sometimes forget there are people who have needs outside of what we have. We often forget sometimes when we open the cupboard up and we're trying to find the right can of beans because we've got 50 cans of beans on the shelf up there, that there's somebody out here somewhere who has nothing on that shelf. We forget sometimes when we roll into our house at night and we lay down and the fan's going and the air's setting due, and we have to pull an extra blanket up so we can stay warm in our comfortable home, that there are those out there who have not where to lay their head. We live in a time where we have plenty, but yet we have need of nothing. Sometimes we feel that way. We don't need anything. We're well off. Man, all we have to do is look around us. You know, poverty is everywhere. Poverty, you don't have to go to a nation somewhere else to find poverty. You would have to go here in your own home. You say, we don't have a homeless problem here in LaGrange. Yes, we do have a homeless problem here in LaGrange. You don't believe it? Go up on the railroad tracks at night and look who's sleeping on the railroad tracks at night. Go up here to Hill Street, up in there and up down. You'll find homeless people everywhere. We're covered up. And it's not just poor, good-for-nothing folks that are homeless out there. There's people who've lost everything they had and have nothing. So I bring your attention to this because I think it's a subject which we need to keep dear and near to our heart. Yes, I have needs, and yes, I have bills, and yes, you have needs, and yes, you have bills, but God's design is that He provides for us that we might provide for others. That's all it is. God doesn't have a problem with you being rich. God has a problem with you being rich and not sharing. God doesn't have a problem with you making a living. God has a problem with you making a living and somebody else can't, and you won't share a penny of it. That's just what this is all about. And so we see the rich young man who is suffering from some problems in his life. And if you read this scripture very carefully, you're going to find out that he suffers from a vital spiritual problem that I think invades our land and our country today. Because when you look at what he's doing here, you see that first of all, you find someone, you don't think he doesn't have a spiritual problem. He has nowhere in this scripture do you find that he even attempts to allude to God and what God would want him to do in this scripture. His only thought is, his heart is all fixed on what this world can give him. And his heart is all fixed on how he can get more of what he's already got. And isn't that the way of America today? We're not just satisfied with some, we want more than some. We want more than enough. We're not satisfied with comfortable. We want more than comfortable. And I'm probably preaching to the hen house in here today because I don't believe we got no rich folks in here today. We ain't got nobody in here that's got millions of dollars unless you're hiding it so well I can't see it. And maybe you are. But I do know this. We're living in here today and inside this house. We're living and working and being around people who are comfortable, and yet we sometimes forget that it's not going to be the wealthy people that take care of America. It's going to be the average people, like it's always been, like the nation was founded on. And we have here a young man who Jesus is pointing out in a parable. He has a heart condition because in that life of his, he only looks into the world. The world, it's all about what he can get from the world, all about what he can make. He's in a spiritual condition. And we don't think about covetousness and things in a spiritual sense, but I want to tell you, a lot of people don't want to pray about when they buy a new car. Folks don't like, I use that often, pray about houses, pray about cars, pray about jobs. We only pray about things that we think are important, but everyday issues, we ought to be praying over everything. This young man ought to sought spiritual guidance when he got to this place. Jesus just told the parable like it was. It's all about him. You don't see him talking to anybody else. You don't see him going to God. You don't see him going to prayer. He just cited the world. Man, my focus is on this world. My focus is on this, like right now. Our whole, you know what the devil's got us doing? The devil's got us looking at the world instead of looking at him. The devil's got us looking at all the problems out there instead of looking at all the blessings out there. The devil's got us so focused on what ain't that we can't see what is. And the devil tries to get our minds off of what's real and get our minds on this other stuff. And he causes us to look at what we have and not look at other people. He had a spiritual condition. His spiritual life was all messed up because he was looking in the wrong way. You know? He had no God in his life. You didn't see him talk to God. I mean, you know, you get around people long enough. You stay around people long enough. You hang around a little bit, and you'll find out if God's involved in their life or not. You'll find out if they ever, you know, I wish one time, just one time, I could see him sit there and say, I wonder what God would have me do. What would God have me do about all this abundance I've got? What would God want me to do with it? You know, this is the self-theory, and I'll get to self in a minute, but he's thinking ahead about, well, if I lose all this, I won't have nothing. You know, we're so worried about losing that we can't realize we're getting it. We're blessed. Every one of us in here blessed. We're blessed. We may not have everything we think we ought to have. Well, I don't see much hunger among us. I don't see much, you know, well, preacher, I can't pay my bills. You know what? If you think about it, Jesus said the abundance of this life is not in what you have. I mean, seems like here lately been doing a whole lot of funerals. I've always done a bunch of them, but here lately, boy, it's just funeral after funeral after funeral. We just got all these funerals coming up. You know, one thing I can say to you, I have never done a funeral yet where anybody, I've not even done one where anybody opened the casket and put all the man's money in the casket so he could take it with him. Matter of fact, most of them take the jewelry off of the body before they even close it up. Because we take nothing with us. Everything we work on to have is something that we can never keep. Think about that, man. Everything you try to obtain in life is stuff that you will eventually never be able to keep. You can't take it with you. You can't even take the suit you're buried in with you. You know that? Naked came we in, naked go we out. I mean, and here this young man has got such a spiritual problem, he doesn't involve God in anything in his life. And I wonder sometimes, how do you involve God in your life? Do you talk to God about your financial matters, your livelihood? Do you talk to God about what you got this week, what you don't have this week? And do you talk to God about, you know, what I need to do with this, and how can I do this, and what can I do that? And listen, I know in our church here, we have some good-hearted people. Now, just so you get this in your mind straight, the preacher is not just preaching about putting money in the offering plate. It's not just about putting money in the offering plate. It's about what we do with what we have to help other people. That's what it's all about. And the mindset of this man, and I believe he most importantly, you know how he had a spiritual condition? He showed no responsibility toward God. No responsibility toward God. Well, listen, to hear him tell it, you would think that without him, nothing would have been there. I don't know about you, but last time I checked on a farmer's life, a farmer plants it, and then he waits on God to give him the increase, because there ain't much a farmer can do to make that crop grow. It's either going to grow, oh, we can fertilize it, we can do all this stuff. I know. I had some of the prettiest tomato plants, man. They would donate it to me, and I was bragging about it. And then things got that big around, and man, they were just hanging full. And I'm thinking, boy, a few days now, I'm gonna pull. I got up one morning, and everything on that tomato bush was gone because the deer come by and paid real big. You know, I mean, what they did eat, they bit into it, dropped it on the ground. The whole bush was gone. I thought a big worm. It was just gone. I thought, you know, that's the way it is. You know, we don't think about it. You know, hey, listen, everything goes into this man was a farmer. This man was a farmer, and he crops and berries. Listen, you ever tried to grow grapes? Brother Dole, if anybody ever goes to Brother Dole, the scuttings up Brother Dole, man, you got them bushes up there, get them scuttings off them things. And so I tell you what, the old young has worked hard to get them things to grow. You know, one thing you find out about fruit, you don't stick it in the ground and wait for it to happen and don't ever go back to it. It's difficult. This man, he had in his mindset that it was nobody but him that produced what he had. It's nobody but him that was able to get out there and do. Nobody could have what I have except me. Nobody could do it was all on me. It was never about God. All good and perfect gifts come from above. Every gift we have is a gift from God. But we don't see that because we see our labor as what produces it. It is not our labor. Just think, had God not given you the ability to labor at it, one of the tragedies I've been seeing here lately, one of the things that I hear from voices here lately, the thing about getting old, and as I talk to people and sick people, I talk to them, and you know, one of the things that really bothers me is the fact that they want to, but they can't anymore work. And they realize that, you know, what the value of this young man had no idea how richly God blessed him, because it was all about him. So he had a spiritual condition. Because I tell you, you can be religious as a hound dog, but if you ain't spiritual, you ain't nothing. So wait, preacher, you got to be religious. No, religious is just religious. I mean, because spiritual does what he says. Religious just believes there is a God. But a spiritual person tries to coincide with the God of heaven. He tries to listen to God. He tries to do what this man had no part of God in his life. He had a real spiritual condition. The less of God you got, the more the world you're into. And to say it on a 4th of July weekend, we live in the greatest nation in the world. But there's so much poverty right here. See, it's always amazed me that we pay farmers not to grow stuff. Because if we let all the farmers produce stuff, they couldn't make any money because it'd be so cheaply sold. So we pay farmers not to produce. I get lost there. I just have to stop right there and I have to think to myself, what kind of craziness is this? We're going to South Carolina sometime to visit some family over there. There's a big agricultural community. And I found out folks over there make as much from the government as they do from selling what they wheat and barley. I mean, they grow it over there, but they make more from the government for not doing it. And one farmer over there, that he has grown such a great crop that he takes it to soybeans. He's got a big soybean thing over there, and soybeans are big over there. And so the government pays him not to produce on part of his land a great check. He takes the soybean that he grows, he gets the oil from the soybeans, he sells it to Russia, and then he sells the remainder to the United States, and so he's making money on top of money on top. Why? But yet there are people starving in our land today. I mean, what's wrong with it? Why? Because I think our government leaders are about like this guy here. It ain't about what you got, it's about what you're going to get on top of it. I got to move quickly, I wasn't going to stay long here. He had a spiritual problem. And you know, we can have a spiritual problem, and we have that in our land today. It's not about being churchy, it's about being in your heart with the Spirit. It has to speak to you, and you have to feel compelled. And listen, I tell people all the time, do not do anything that you don't feel compelled by the Spirit of God to do, because if you do it just to do it, or just to show somebody else you're doing it, all you're doing is wasting your substance. You're not going to get blessed from it. You're not going to be blessed by doing something because that's what we do at church. No, it's what you do as a Christian. Jesus said, listen, you've got a problem. He had a problem and he suffered from too much self-interest, don't you think so? I mean, this is not like he just made bad decisions. Not one moment, think about this. Maybe a guy in his right mind would have said, you know, this has been a great year for me. Because if you know anything about farming in this area and the harvest he had, he was prepared for a certain type of harvest. And he would have fared sumptuously on that harvest. But God gave him more than he needed. And you might have thought the first thought through his mind would have been, well, let's see. Maybe there's some neighbors I've got that could use some of this. Maybe I could share some. See, it wouldn't cost him any money. All it cost him was to let them have it. They can come and get it. You know, they had the custom over there in the glean the barley fields, and they left the corners where you could come in and you could reap some of the harvest out of the corners for the sun. But this man had great, he never thought about giving to anybody. He never thought anything. And the problem when you get so deep in self, there's two things you see about this young man that just drives you crazy. He had A self-interest problem that developed and made his eyes go bad. Because he could see nobody else. He couldn't see what was happening. He refused to look. Now you know, he's like anybody else. Listen, just like you. You live on your street, you live on your road, you live on your side of town, and I promise, they didn't even have Facebook back then, but I promise you, everybody in here just about knows what's going on down the street and up the road. We keep up with everything, we know who's doing what. Well, it took a little bit longer back then, but they had word of mouth, and he knew exactly what was happening around him. He knew, listen, he knew because he grew up in a time to where the government was on their back. He could have blessed somebody else, but his eyes were shut. He could not see. And when we get so filled with self, we don't look at it. We can't see other people. We just see what we want to see. His self-interest messed his eyes up, and his self-interest damaged his ears. I had breakfast with Butch the other morning. He's sitting on this side of me, and I'm sitting on this side, and my back is to a TV, and he's watching the TV, and all of a sudden he'll say, "Can you believe that?" I say, "What?" He said, "Can you believe that?" I said, "What?" He taps the table. He said, "I'm talking to you." I said, "Yeah, I'm talking back, but you can't hear me." Had a hearing problem. He couldn't hear me. His first thing was, "I didn't put my hearing aids in this morning." I thought, got a hearing problem. This man had a hearing problem. If you study the time that this is written, they had great poverty all around them, and people cried on street corners. Beggars were everywhere, desiring something. He could not even hear the cries of his own people, because his self-indulgent life had so darkened his life. And you'll see in a minute, there's a verse in the Bible that says, if you've been that darkened, how dark are you? Now, I know in your mind you think, "Well, preacher, I can't save the world. I can't do," you know, what we can do, one thing, one simple thing. Do you know what'll get you a long way? Kindness. Just be kind to people. You know, just be kind to folks. Hey, I don't have $1 to give them, preacher. Well, give them a penny. You know? I've learned a great trick. Don't give them nothing. Offer to buy them something. I need someone to eat on. Come on, I'll buy you a meal. They'll usually turn tail. You'll find out folks are hungry real quick. If they decline your offer to buy food, they just want money. But if they're hungry, they'll let you buy them some food. You know, these stray cats I took in, them things that cost me out the back door. Just go get shots. You gotta, y'all see that head? That's why the head, that's taking one cat to a vet. The cat eat me alive, go to one, and after I get scarred up, cut up, and the vet said, "That's $247. For 2 shots and some sleep medicine?" I mean, but, you know, us being, you know, was kind-hearted, they showed up at the house, the mama did, and we started feeding the mama, and the next thing she does, she walks up with a baby in her mouth, you know, so here we got 2 of them, and I never wanted cats. We got cats, you know, and you get tender-hearted, you just gotta, you know, pets are something wonderful. You can't, if you own a pet, and you don't love a pet, you don't need the pet. You know, first thing you ought to do, if you take a pet in your house, is if you can't take care of it, don't take it in your house. Take it somewhere else. You know, humanity's the same way. We could do a lot more to help each other if we just showed more interest. I mean, this guy, he had no interest in other, and his hearing, his sight was gone. I mean, when I preach on it, people look at you like, I'm telling people to give them meals and stuff. You know what? I guarantee if you'll do this, just do this. Do this. I challenge you. I did it, and it just blew me away. I got, for 1 month, I took me a tablet, and I wrote down what I spend at Burger King every morning for breakfast, $5.66 for breakfast every morning. That's what I pay for breakfast. And during the daytime, how many Cokes did I buy? Well, I didn't buy any Coke, but I bought 2 teas that day, one half and half and one unsweet. But I bought 2 teas that day. They were $1 a piece, you know, and got to where I buy that every day, you know. So after a month, I said, well, okay, how much? I saw, man, I spent $30 or $40 I could have done without spending. Now, what could I have done with $30 or $40? I could have done without a tea, and I could try to give it to somebody, try to help somebody. You know, I could put more in the church offering plate. Don't talk about that, preacher, because the church does help people, you know. And a lot of people, this is the attitude of America today. I don't give to the church because we give it all. We don't give it all to the preacher. We have great ministries. Hey, listen, we got ministers that need money. But outside of that, you can just stand in Burger King, go to McDonald's, go to Walmart. You'll find somebody that has a need. Don't ask them, just watch them. You ever see somebody stand in line going to purchase something and didn't have enough money? Sure. What's wrong with me giving it to them? I tell you that meal that I still don't know who it was that bought it for me. Bought me a meal. That meal has cost me more money because I'm still trying to pay it forward. You know, somebody bought me a meal. I didn't know who it was, and I just felt like I'm just saying it's not the great multitude of things we do. It's the simple things we might do to help people. Help people. Help people. I know I get in trouble for doing this, you know, but I'm going to do it anyway. All they do is get mad at me. I know Jim and Barbara, the friends, they're neighbors, and Jim visited that man, worked with that gentleman. You know, Jim made the inroads he made because of kindness, trying to give to those people. And I read a great article. It's on my desk back there. I was reading it for church today. It's a new study guide out. And there's this woman that wrote a great series. And, you know, what they're doing, they're asking us to start a new theory in church. It's called the Fellowship of Humanity Theory. And this woman says that she was converted from a lesbian lifestyle to being a child of God. Now she's married and has a husband. She said, I was converted not by preachers preaching in my ear, but she said a local pastor and his wife invited me to come to dinner one night. And she said, you know, that one dinner has turned into 40 or 50 dinners. And she said, over the course of time, they didn't beat me over the head. They didn't ask me to change my lifestyle. We simply talked about the Word of God together. And through my trust in them, I was able to find Jesus as my Savior. You know, it doesn't cost you a lot of money to invest your time in people. Sometimes it doesn't work well. Sometimes you can invest in people and it'll blow up on you. But sometimes you can invest in people and it gets you a lot of places. Boy, we better run here. I just want his self-interest. May I tell you, he suffered from a soul disease. I mean, look, he sought satisfaction for his soul in the world. You know how many people think they can find happiness in the world? This man never one time does he say, man, if I'll just give myself to the Lord, I'll find peace. And that's what we get from him. Peace and joy and happiness. But this man was looking for something. He's like the rest of the world today. We're always looking and wanting something. And this man thought, well, I'll find it because I got more and more and more and more. We seek to feed our soul on the world and not on the Word. And we find more joy in the world than we do in church. That's why a lot of folks don't like it. I don't get nothing out of church. You know what? You go to the dinner table, sit down, don't eat nothing, you don't get nothing out of it either. We live in a terrible time when our minds are not focused on Jesus. We're focused on ourselves and the world. And this young man, Jesus gave a parable back to him. And Jesus just told him that he needed to trust in him. His soul was hungry and he sought something. And his soul was diseased. But I want you to notice as I close some few pointers. This man suffered from a decision that ruined his life. Did you notice notice how indifferent he was to God? Didn't even mention God. Didn't mention others. That's an indifference. That's a soul trait. But you know, the one thing we didn't say that's right here, the tragedy is this. Never once do you see him even think about eternity. Never once. And we see that so much today. People get up, live their lives. They live like they're going to live forever. People get up and move around and do this stuff like they're going to never die. He never thought about eternity. That old great sermon preached many years ago, Payday Someday. It's out there and it's coming. And I love those people who invest themselves in other things and other projects and other ministries. You know, we couldn't function as a church if we didn't have people that invested in others. And that's what makes a church great. It's not the preacher, it's who is in the church working, what they're doing, how they're helping other people. And this man, he never thought about eternity. So when I close, I want to read you some of Jesus' most passionate words about it. When he said, "Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, wherein moth and rust doeth corrupt, where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal." What a wonderful little passage that we find here. And when you listen to Jesus, watch this now. "But where your treasure is," what do you hear me say? "There will your heart be also." Doesn't do us any good to preach about giving and working. It's where our heart is. For where a man's heart is, there is his treasure. "The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye is single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness?" How great is that darkness? A parable given by Jesus to a man who wanted what his brother had. He told a parable of a rich man who only thought of himself. It's 4th of July and we can celebrate. But life begins again tomorrow, Monday, Wednesday. Find somebody you can be kind to this week. Find somebody you can pass it on. Find somebody you can pray with. Find somebody you can offer them a ride. Find somebody. Don't get so busy with yourself that you forget there are others about. Because God loves them just like He loves you. You got me an invitation picked out? Y'all come on. Let's pray, Father. Father, thank you for a few minutes in your word, Lord. We pray that you speak to our hearts, Father. Lord, these are difficult issues, but sometimes we do get so busy thinking about only ourselves that we forget there are others that have needs and others we could help. Lord, you want to bless us. And Lord, I'm thankful. I read that verse in the Bible and I rejoice over it. You said to me, Lord, you would that I prosper and be in health, even as my soul prospers. Lord, you're not against me being wealthy or having money. You just want me to be a person who passes along what you bless me with. Thank you for the blessings you give, Father. Thank you for the love you share with us. Lord, if there's one here that's sick in their heart today, or one here that's praying for a loved lost one, I pray you be with them, Father, today. As we sing a simple invitation, may the Holy Spirit speak. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Would you stand, please?